All right, so today we're going to look at graphing the function. So this is vertex form, or sorry, this is intercept form. So the first two things we need to find are the intercepts. So P is equal to -2, and Q is equal to -4. So that comes from the two numbers that are in here. And then in order to find the x-coordinate of the vertex, you take P plus Q and you divide by 2. So that would be -6/2, which equals 3. -3. So the vertex is -3, comma, and then you plug -3 in for x. So that would be -1 times 1 times 2, which would be -2. So that is our vertex. All right, and then we need to find the axis of symmetry, which is always the same thing as the x part of the vertex. The intercepts are points, so this would be the point -2, 0. Basically, it's just P written as a point, and Q is, and the other x-intercept is -4, 0. Right, so we go to graph it, and we have -3, -2. We plot the two coordinates at -2 and -4. We draw our graph. Should be U-shaped with arrows on the end. And we look at this and we see that this is the smallest number that the graph can be. So that's a minimum. And then the point at which the max or the min occurs is always the vertex. So you just recopy where the vertex is. All right, so let's look at number 2. So number 2, this is vertex form. So we're going to have HK. So this is H and this is K. When you pull something out of the parentheses, it changes the sign. So it'll be +2, -3. So K always stays the same. H comes out of the parentheses, so he'll change his sign. So we're going to plot the point 2, -3. And then what you can do is just pick a point on either side, or you could just pick 0. So I'm going to plug 0 in. So that would be y equals -0 minus 2 squared minus 3. So negative, that's going to be 4 minus 3, which will be -7. So y is equal to -7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you do the same thing on the other side. And you draw your parabola. And that's that. Number 3 is on standard form. So x is equal to the opposite of b over 2a. So this is a, this is b, and this is c. So x is equal to the opposite of b, which is -4, which would be +4, over 2 times a, which is 2. So x is equal to 1. Then you take 1 and you plug it into the equation and you multiply. So 1 squared is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. So we have 2 minus 4 plus 3. So that would be 1. So we have our vertex is at 1, 1. Okay, and then let's plug in 0. So I plug in 0 for everything, and that would be 3. And then plot your point directly across. Draw your graph. And there you go. All right, so let's look at the back of the page. So let's start with number 4. So on number 4, we're going to go ahead and factor what two numbers multiply to make 12 and add to make 7. So we look at the numbers of 12. We have 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. So 3 and 4 add to make 7. So it'll be x plus 3, x plus 4. We can check our work by verifying that 3 plus 4 is 7 and 3 times 4 is 12. So we're winners. All right, so now let's look at number 5. So what two numbers multiply to make 40 but subtract to make 3? So we look at all the numbers that multiply to make 40. And we look and see which one of those subtract to make 3. So we can see it's 8 and 5. So we have 8 and we have 5. This minus sign tells us that the signs will be different. The plus sign tells us that the biggest number gets that sign. And again, you can check. If you add 8 and -5, you get +3. If you multiply 8 and -5, you get -40. So we're winners. All right, number 6, slide and multiply. So that's going to give us 80. What two numbers multiply to make 80 but add to make 42? So we have 1 and 80, 2 and 40. So 2 and 40 add to make 42. So we're going to have x minus 2, x minus 40. And the signs are both negative because this is a positive. And whenever this is a positive, both signs get the first sign. So now we are going to divide and reduce. So this reduces to 8. And then we'll do bottoms up with the 5. So that'll be 5, parentheses, 5x minus 2, x minus 8. All right, number 7, this is a binomial. So we have a binomial. The first thing we look for is the GCF. No GCF. So then the second thing is difference of two squares. So is 64 a perfect square? Yes. Is this a minus sign? Yes. And is this a perfect square? Yes. So that is the difference of two squares. So you take the square root of the first, you write it twice. You take the square root of the second, you write it twice. One gets a plus, one gets a minus. And that's how you factor the difference of two squares. Number 8. So if we look at number 8, first thing we have to do whenever it's set equal, or whenever it's an equal sign, we're solving, we always have to set it equal to 0 first. So I'm going to minus 11x, minus 11x. I'm going to add 24, add 24. So I'm going to get x squared minus 11x plus 24 equals 0. So now it's set equal to 0. So now the next step is going to be to factor. So what two numbers multiply to make 24 and add to make 11? So that's going to be 8 and 3. We know both the signs are negative because this is a positive, which means that both the signs have to be the middle term sign. Right? So because it's solving, we take each factor and we set them equal to 0. This is the 0 product property. So this would be plus 8 to both sides. So x is equal to 8, or plus 3 to both sides, x is equal to 3. And those are our two solutions. All right, number 9, it's already set equal to 0, so we're ready to factor. What two numbers multiply to make 8, but subtract to make 2? And that would be 4 and 2. Take each factor and set them equal to 0 and solve for x. Oops, equals 0. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. All right, number 10, make sure it's set equal to 0. Look for a GCF first, right? This is a binomial. Every time we have a binomial, we always look for a GCF first. So what do both of these terms have in common? They both have an x. So we'll factor out the x, which basically means divide both by x. Then we'll go ahead and set each factor equal to 0 and solve for x. First guy is already solved. Second guy, we're going to add x, or add 6 to both sides. And there's our two solutions. All right, number 11. We go through this, we notice that all 3 of these numbers are divisible by 4. So the first thing I'm going to do is factor out a 4. So I'm going to divide every single term by 4. Now we're going to factor. So what two numbers multiply to make 4 but subtract to make 3? And that would be -4 and +1. Right? The 4 doesn't count anymore because he doesn't have a letter or anything. So basically we just divide him out. So he's gone. So then we set each of these factors equal to 0 using that 0 product property. Add 4 to both sides. Subtract 1 from both sides. 1. So we have our solutions. Number 12, it's a binomial. So the first thing we do is look for a GCF. There are none. So we're going to look at the difference of two squares. So 9x squared is a perfect square. 25 is a perfect square, and there's a minus sign in between. So the square root of the first goes in the first two places. Square root of the second goes in the second two places. One gets a plus, one gets a minus. break them up and set them equal to 0. Solve both of them, so I'm going to minus 5, divide by 3, add 5, divide by 3. So x is going to equal positive 5/3. So you could have put plus or minus 5/3 if you wanted to. All right, number 13. Step 1, set it equal to 0. So I have 10x squared minus 3x plus, minus 4 equals 0. We're going to slide and multiply, so we're going to get 40. What two numbers multiply to make 40 but subtract to make 3? So 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 4 and 10, 5 and 8. So again, we have 5 and 8. So we're going to have x minus 8, x plus 5. We're going to divide and reduce. So this reduces to 4/5. This reduces to 1/2. Right? And since we're solving, we don't really have to do the bottoms up because that'll just get us back to where this is. So just go ahead and set them equal to 0 at this point, and you'll get your two answers. All right, number 14, skip. That one has an imaginary answer, and we're not ready to do imaginary solutions yet. So let's go ahead and look at number 15. So two things that you do on this. Basically, what we want to do is isolate the parentheses with the squared. So we're going to add 29 to both sides. Hold on a second.